the end all of decision making criteria. I don't think that's fair. I think it's a good anchor, but I think when you talk about what the other factors that one needs to consider are, I think you're not, playoff probabilities are your odds at a single moment in time. It's a snapshot, right? It doesn't tell an entire story. It doesn't include a trend where you're coming from and where you might be going. And so we have to try and predict the team that we're going to be post deadline. And you don't get that picture entirely from playoff odds.
So I sense a message coming out of Fenway Park, a theme, if you want to call it that. Campaign, maybe even, is a strong word, but I think it's a little bit of a campaign. I think there are talking points that Craig Breslow gets when he speaks with the media, whether they're in press conferences or on a day-to-day basis. I don't understand. I shouldn't say I don't know how the inner workings go as far as prepping Breslow for the media and how often that takes place, big press conferences only, or whether it was done at the beginning. But there has to be some schooling that takes place with somebody like Breslow, who frankly kind of came into this job because nobody else wanted it. I think that's an important thing to keep mentioning here. Craig Breslow is the chief baseball officer of the Red Sox, in part because there were a number of other people who either took themselves out of the running or didn't want the job, which may be the same thing. So the message coming out of Fenway Park, and this all goes back a couple of weeks, because I sense a theme. And by the way, 617-779-0985 is your number. We're going to focus on Craig Breslow and the comments he made in a podcast with Chris Cotillo and Sean McAdam of Mazz Live. Jimmy, what's the name of that podcast? Fenway Rundown, maybe?
Fenway Rundown is correct.
Okay, Fenway Rundown podcast. I just want to give them their proper credit. Breslow spoke with them. It's about a 30-minute podcast. It's worth listening to if you're a Red Sox fan. We did try to pull out some of the highlights for you. But the that comment there about the playoff probability, or the data-determined probability, which I'm now citing from an Alex Spear story back in, this was in June, end of June. That one has come to haunt Craig Breslow. And again, I now think there is a campaign, and this all comes back to the same thing. Okay? What is going to happen at the trade deadline? What do Red Sox ownership and management want to have happen at the deadline? What do the players want to have happen at the deadline? And what do you as a fan, what do you want to have happen? Or what do you want to happen? Okay, those things, because the answer is not the same thing in all three. In fact, I would say the one outlier comes from, I think, upper management and ownership. I am not sure the Red Sox really want to add. They wouldn't be sitting there right now talking about making an evaluation in the final 2 weeks if they really wanted to add. They would not be talking about it. They would be doing it. Right now, they're in the playoffs. They're in. This is not a question of whether or not the Red Sox can get in the race. At the beginning of the year, that was a question we were asking. Can the Red Sox get in the race? What if they're in it at the trading deadline? Well, now they are. The answer should be they add. End of story. Years ago, when the Red Sox got to this point of the season, we assumed they would be in the race. We assumed that they would be in it and that they would add. So there was no what if. It was expected. And I say years ago, it wasn't that long ago. For the large majority of this ownership, it's been an automatic. They don't sell. They typically don't sell. Historically, they have rarely sold. And more often than not, they have been in it and added. Why is there a question now? And yet, I listen to Craig Breslow and I say, ooh, the Red Sox are getting sensitive about this. So again, he talks about it there. And he talks about the data-driven probabilities, data-determined probability, which I'll get to in detail in a moment. But he said two other things, or this common phrase I noticed kept popping up in answers with Breslow, and some of this goes back to Sunday night. And I found two examples of it. I thought there were more. But in any case, Jimmy, if we could play the short versions of these. Breslow 1, short version.
But the lane that we pick is going to be dictated by a host of considerations, and none more meaningful than what is happening on the field.
Okay, the lane that we pick is going to be determined by the play on the field. Number 6, Jimmy.
Of course, I think the first decision to make is what makes the most sense from the baseball side. And I just keep coming back to the biggest driver of that is going to be what happens on the field.
Okay, the biggest driver is going to be what happens on the field. The first one we played, well, it's going to depend on what happens on the field. All of a sudden now the Red Sox are saying it's going to, what matters is what happens on the field. They've played 89 games. They're 9 games over. Next week is All-Star break week. There aren't even games for the first 4 days of the week. So really, how many games are left? 6 this week. I was going to say 7. Next week, the Red Sox will play 3, and I'm going to call up the schedule now just to make sure I don't trip on myself, because heaven knows I could get all of that wrong. So, again, Oakland and Kansas City are in here for the balance of this week. Then comes the All-Star break. Then the Red Sox come out of the All-Star break and they go to Los Angeles and Colorado, and they play the New York Yankees here on the final weekend of July. So that's 9 games post-break, 15 games. So the Red Sox are going to make the analytically driven Red Sox, who believe in larger samples, are going to make a decision based on the next 15 games instead of the 89 that have been played until now. Oh, bullcrap. Bullcrap. That is bullcrap. That's complete, total bullcrap on multiple levels. One, it's a lie, because the uniformed personnel have already done enough to get help at the deadline. They're in the playoffs. If the season ended today, they're in. What is ownership? What is upper management waiting for? What are they waiting for? And the other bullcrap part of it is more like, well, that's garbage. Because that's what that is. That is garbage. So again, they're going to put all this emphasis on data accumulated over the big picture, over the long haul. That's the data. That's what matters. And then sit here and tell us 2 weeks before the deadline, when we're going to wait and see what happens over the next 2 weeks. Why does that have any bearing at all? By this point, you either believe or you don't. And the answer is that they don't. Now, just a couple of quick things as it pertains to the language. You know why everyone talks about data-determined probability? And that's what Sean McAdam asked in that question to Craig Breslow? Because Craig Breslow and the baseball operations department have been preaching it. That's why. Again, this is a story from Alex Spear of the Boston Globe on June 21st. And Alex, by the way, I will say, without any exaggeration whatsoever, is probably as down the middle a reporter as you will get. And probably someone who believes in the analytics as much as anybody, and I'm not criticizing him for it. He wrote his lead paragraph on June 21st. Craig Breslow cares about the odds. The Red Sox chief baseball officer has made it clear that in evaluating whether to buy or sell at the deadline this year, the data-determined probability of reaching the postseason will play a significant role. Alex Spear wrote that Craig Breslow has admitted that. And now Craig Breslow is coming out and saying, well, what's really going to matter is the play on the field. And you know why he's saying that? Because he knows that people are giving the Red Sox crap for it. And because now it's the only hope the Red Sox have of getting out of it. That's why. This is why they're trying to weasel their way. Now the play on the field matters because the Red Sox have played well and surprised everybody. And deep down, the Red Sox really don't want to buy because they don't believe in this team. They haven't believed in this team all year long. The wins and losses are irrelevant. They projected this team to win 78 games, and they think that's where it's going to end up. I have a question for those of you out there, too. So with the Red Sox, let's see if ownership and management live up to their promise, the one that Craig Breslow just made. Let's see. They're going to decide it on the field. So if the Red Sox play well in the next 15 games, they're going to add? Is that a promise? That's basically what Craig Breslow said. I don't know if I believe him. To you? 617-779-0985. We'll do trivia later in the show, as we do every Tuesday. That's a little bit later, but I want to take your calls. And I also want to ask a question to those of you out there who are younger baseball fans. When did you start cheering for the front offices instead of the people in the uniforms? When did that happen? When did it become more important to be able to predict what was going to happen instead of actually enjoying what did? When did that happen? When did that change? Because that's what baseball's become. I will get to all that when we come back on the Baseball Hour.
in contention, playing meaningful games, kind of staring down a potential playoff run. The resources have been there. I don't anticipate this season being any differently, going any differently. Of course, I think the first decision to make is what makes the most sense from the baseball side. And then we'll kind of understand where we can operate. And I just keep coming back to the biggest driver of that is going to be what happens on the field.
Again, the biggest driver will be what happens on the field. My follow-up to that would be, why haven't you seen enough already? What is it that you need to see that you don't already know? So what is it that Craig Breslow and the Red Sox need to see? Again, this part of it blows me away. The analytics are all based on large samples. That's what they're based on. Being able to predict human behavior over a period of time. It's hard to predict anybody's behavior in any one game or any one series. Hard to know. If it were easy, you'd clean up on all the gambling sites. Fine, so-and-so's going to homer tonight because, I should say that Rafael Devers against Garrett Cole is a pretty safe bet, but you get the idea. The metrics are all based on big samples. The Red Sox have taken some of those this year and blown them up, blown them out of the water. So now they're 49-40 after 89 games. And yet, they're approaching the trading deadline. Now just 15 games basically remaining. And I said through the final weekend of July, which ends on the 28th. There's a few more days after that, obviously. But let's call it 15 games. And now they're saying, well, we're going to continue to evaluate over the next 2 weeks. Oh, that's such bullcrap. That's moving the goalposts. Now you're changing the rules because you didn't get the answer you wanted. That's what it is. Moving the goalposts. So we didn't think this team was going to be that good. We thought we were going to be able to sell, which is why Bob Nightingale reported they were going to move Kenley Jansen, maybe even Tyler O'Neill, because the Red Sox didn't expect to be good, especially after all the injuries. Now, all of a sudden, they're 9 over. Cora and his company, I say Cora and his company, Cora and company, have thrown a wrench in the plans. Now, all of a sudden, it's, well, we're still evaluating. Oh, change the rules as you go. When you don't get the answer you want, delay. Delay. Tap your feet, kill time, let them play more, and hope that they lose. That's what it feels like. If you're watching this, I don't know how it could feel like anything else. What have they not shown you to this point? They just won 5 out of 6. They had a winning streak. They started to lose. And went, here it is, leveling off. They turned it right around and went 5 out of 6. They swept the Marlins, took 2 out of 3 against the Yankees. Don is in New York. Don, what do you got?
Hey, Tony, thanks for taking my call. For the analytics, I don't know. I think it's a ruse all the way around. I think even if their prognostication been 90, I still don't think they're going to do anything. I think they've had this idea since 3-4 years ago.
Wait, Don, who are you talking about now? The Red Sox?
Yes, the Red Sox.
So that they're not going to do anything because they've decided for 3 or 4 years that they weren't going to be good in 2024?
No. I think they've been thinking this way for 3 or 4 years, that they're really not going to add anything going forward. I think unless there were 15, 20, 25 games over 500, then they might think about it. But I think if there's only a possibility, they're not looking at that. So here's what I would say for the Red Sox. The players, just give them a big FU. Say, we're going to do it without anybody else. We might be losing our manager. Let's go out with we'll do the dirty work ourselves. And can I just say one other thing?
Don, I'm going to let you go. Thank you, just because I got other people on the line. I think basically that's what they're doing. I think what you want them to do is basically what they're doing. They're giving them the FU and they're winning anyway. That still doesn't make it right. I don't get, this. The hard part to understand is they want you to believe in the team, but they don't want to believe themselves to the point where they want to actually get behind it and invest in it. And this whole idea that we're not going to trade away our future, don't buy that bull crap either. There's plenty of guys they could trade. The easy one is second base. Okay, Nick York was a first-round draft pick, not a number 1 pick, but a first-round draft pick, and they just acquired Vaughn Grissom in the Chris Sale trade. Both of those guys are second basemen. How many second basemen are you going to play when you have Marcelo Meyer coming at shortstop, Devers at third, Casas at first? You've still got Kyle Teel in the system. How many second basemen do you need? Somebody's got to go. Nick York and Vaughn Grissom do not both have to be on this team. There's an easy trade to make there. Easy. Jack and Shrewsbury. Go ahead, Jack.
Hey, how you doing, guys? I wanted to start off by answering that question you have for the younger fans. I'm 22. I never really cared for the front office. I've been a diehard my whole life. The first time I ever went to Fenway Park, I was 3 months at the fan meet and greet for Halloween trick or treat, and I got a photo with Lou Maloney. But
all right, I'm going to let you go. But the question was, you root for the team. My question to young fans is, and a buddy of mine asked me this years ago, and I thought it was an interesting way to put it. At what point did people stop rooting for the team and the players, the people in uniform, and start rooting for the GM? And you know what I think it was? Fantasy sports. It got worse with fantasy sports, particularly people who grew up in the age where the websites gave you all the data and all you had to do was pick the players. Now you got to play GM. And all of a sudden, you know what you started doing? You started fiddling around on your computer, playing GM instead of actually going out and playing stickball or wiffle ball or whatever else. So you started to connect with the GM more than you did the players. That's how it happened. So you lost interest in the game on the field and started engaging in the game in the front office, which to me blows me away. First of all, you can do both. But the idea that somehow you're going to back the GM and look for the data because that's the guy you're going to pick up on the waiver wire in your fantasy league, that's ridiculous. It really is. It gets kind of silly. Mike in Framingham. Mike, go ahead. Mike, are you there?
Yeah.
Go. What do you got?
Well, I'll tell you, they're not going to add at the deadline, even if the Red Sox win the next 15 games. The reason they're not going to is that'll be their excuse not to add because they're going to be able to say, hey, they're good enough to make it. They don't.
Okay,
I'd be surprised if they sell, but I do think they're not going to add at all.
So Mike, sorry, I'm going to let you go. Just we get a lot of people lined up. It's an interesting way to look at it. If they go 15-0, well, we don't need help. And get ready for the line that everybody knows is coming. I'll bring it up with Jared Carabas tomorrow night. Well, we're getting Tristan Casas back. You know, Liam Hendricks is going to join the team. He's going to come off the injured list after Tommy John surgery. We're going to be able to add some pieces doing that. Because you know that's coming. They do not want to invest in this team because they don't believe in it. Tom and Newton. Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, hey, Mazz, just to put it simply, what's the point of even watching the Red Sox? If the team is punching above their numbers and they're having success and they're showing mettle and you still won't invest even then what are we even doing? And as far as the stats go, I agree with everything, everybody's had to say about this. The whole point of watching sports, the thrill of sports, is seeing the underdog win, seeing the thing that's not a statistical lock, seeing if your team wins and if that's what happens. If the whole way we look at this is just about what the stats say and that's how the whole thing is oriented, we're not watching baseball anymore. We're just watching stats. I just think it sucks. Thanks.
No, exactly right. You're watching the returns come in. That's what it is. And I say the returns, you're watching the ticker, the stock ticker. The number going up, the number going down. Can we predict it? That's what it is. You literally run your baseball team like a business. You're just trying to predict behavior. It has nothing to do with the actual game on the field. This is one of the things that baseball is completely botched. And baseball's botched a lot over the last 20 years. This one's near the top of the list. They're not selling you the game anymore. Or at least they weren't for a long time. They'd rather sell you this bullcrap in numbers instead of the actual game on the field. So in some ways, I think it's done irreparable damage. Pat and Franklin. Pat, go ahead.
You're totally right, Tony. So just like college sports with the NIL being a disaster, this is ruining baseball. So the last weekend, if you're like a true Red Sox fan, how excited are you? The Friday night comeback, that Sunday night game was awesome. I don't have Nesson yet. I want to pull the trigger and get there and put the Nesson back on. But I'll tell you what, if they don't add, I'm done. I'm 52, dude. I got better things to do. If this team is going to completely not try, what are we doing?
So
I don't get it.
No, Pat, it's a great point. And again, this connects to something the last caller said. They tell you to watch. They tell you to buy tickets. Come see us. but they don't want to invest in the product. So they just want you to sort of, no, enjoy the entertainment value of it, even if the team is losing. Well, no. The whole point of watching is to see a good team achieve and win. That's what inspires people, is the ability of these players to not only perform and entertain you, but also work together and play as a group. That's the whole point of it. That's where the fun is. It's about achieving and trying to beat everyone else. So on the one hand, they will tell you, we're not going to invest in this team, but buy our tickets, come to our ballpark, drink our beer, buy our hot dogs, do all that stuff. It's totally paradoxical. Makes no sense whatsoever. I say this a million times on this show, and I'll say it a million more. Don't judge them on what they say. Judge them on what they do. They need to act at this deadline. If they don't, and they don't do something that we can call substantive, and I don't mean a blockbuster, I just mean you bleed a little to gain a little. So that means Nick York or somebody that means something to them in some capacity. And I just throw out Nick York and Vaughn Grissom because they play the same position. But if they're just going to keep trading A-ball scrubs and try to give you the illusion of contention, as Dan Shaughnessy calls it, because they don't really want to win, they really just want to keep building for the future. Well, if they're building for the future, why do you need to watch in the present? Explain that one to me. Kevin Majori's got your headlines. Trivia Tuesday coming back. Jimmy, do I give the number before? I can never remember how we do this. I give the number.
Please give the number now so we can screen the calls.
Okay, so again, if you're on the line to talk baseball, sit tight just for a second. Right now, we'll take the first two callers, not right this second, but when we come back from the break. Call the contest line, 617-931-0985. That's not the caller line, it's the contest line, 617-931-0985. And you could win a $50 Golf gas card on Trivia Tuesday, presented by Golf. You can download the Golf Pay mobile app for everyday savings. Golf, it all starts here. That's coming next.
Sports Hub. This is where your baseball knowledge can lead to fabulous prizes. And now, here's your host, Tony Mazzarati.
All right, here's how it works. We have 2 callers on the line. We're looking for one winner. We start with Ryan on line 8. If he doesn't get it right, we ask one question. If he doesn't get it right, we go to Dale on line 2. Dale. We go to Dale on line 2.
If he's in Maine, though, he's ineligible.
And what was the name of the Papoose Pond? Or what was the name of it? Do you remember, Jimmy?
Papoose Pond, yeah.
Was it Papoose Pond?
It was.
Okay.
Oakley.
So we go to Dale second. We ask him a different question because I don't want Dale listening while I'm asking Ryan the question. And then Dale can look up the answer. So we're going to change the question.
Oh, Dale's would never manipulate anything like that.
If Ryan and Dale both fail, rhyme unintended, we bring in 2 more callers. 617-931-0985. We give 2 more people a shot. If they screw it up, we're done.
Dale would take credit for somebody else's answer.
The worst we're going to do is 0 for 4. Okay? 0 for 4 is the worst we're going to do. We're not going 0 for 5. And then we go to next week. Whoever gets the question right, whatever that question is, will get a $50 gas card from Gulf. You get to fill up your tank. Pretty close anyway, depending on the size of your vehicle. But you get the idea. 617-779-0985. Now, I got to punch up my questions just to make sure we're all on the same page here. We have a list of questions we like to go to. We will kick it off with Ryan in Worcester. Ryan, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so here you go, Ryan. This one's pretty easy. The Red Sox have 3 representatives at the All-Star game this year. Name 2 of them.
Jaron Duran, Rafael Devers.
Rafael Devers and Jaron Duran are correct. Very good. I'm going to put you on hold. You sit right there. You give your information to Jimmy and those guys. The third one, Tanner Houck. Rafael Devers has said that he will not be attending the All-Star game, but he was selected to the All-Star game, so that is a correct answer. Dale in Dover, who's on line 2. Apologies, but what was the guy who won? What was his name again?
Ryan in Worcester.
Did he just drop?
We got him, though.
Oh, all right. There he is.
We'll get him.
For a second there, it looked like he was gone.
That was not your fault.
Okay.
Although, if Dale did sabotage him, it wouldn't be unlike a Dale to sabotage somebody.
Hey, you said that, not me, Joe.
Of course I did. My name's on it.
But anyway, you get the idea. So we'll go back to your calls because, again, I do think it is an important trade deadline for the Red Sox. Buster Olney said this during the broadcast on Sunday night. Buster has covered baseball a long time, and I worked with him. I say worked with him for many years in press boxes with him for many years, never for the same publication or outlet or what have you. But Buster knows the game as well as anybody. Buster says there's a lot of pressure on the Red Sox. People are watching. Fans are watching. They owe something to the fan base. I think he's right. This team this year has been a pleasant surprise. You should feel good about this team. It's a good team to feel good about. They're young. They play hard. They're winning in spite of injuries and the projections for them. A lot of things have gone right, and some younger players have really kind of blossomed here. It's a team you should start to latch on to. And so, to me, they not only do they owe it to the players, I think you always owe it to the players at midseason. That's sort of the deal. We play well. We get into contention. You help us out. Like, to me, that's sort of an understood give and take that exists between uniform personnel and non-uniform personnel. It's a given. They also owe something to you. I say this over and over again. It's a two-way relationship. You're supposed to get something back. You haven't gotten much back in the last 4 or 5 years. Mark in Medford. Mark, what do you got?
Hey, Tony, I'm going to throw a curveball at you. I'm going to switch teams on you. I know the Yankees are missing a couple of big bats with Stanton and Rizzo, but what the frig is wrong with this team?
So, Mark, look, I let you go. I think they were overachieving a little bit in the early part of the year. I still think it's a good team. And it's not unusual for teams to go into a little bit of a lull in the middle of the year. In fact, look, it happened with the 2004 Red Sox. They kind of went into this phase. Now, I don't know if they went 5-15 over any stretch of time, but honestly, the Yankees are going to be in it. in the playoffs, they're going to be there. Can they win the World Series? I don't know. Frankly, I don't really even care all that much. But, if the Red Sox had sucked, I was willing to take on the Yankees or someone else as my second team. I don't need to worry about that right now. Brian's in Norwood. Brian, go ahead.
Hey, Tony, I agree with you wholeheartedly on my hate for the front office. Pedro in 2004 told the entire New York and the media, all I do is pitch, and that's all I have control over, and without blinking. And I just feel like Cora has all that same tenacity, staring down insane Boston media and inspiring his team. Get behind me. All I do is manage. I can't control who comes in. That's all I got.
Yeah, so look, Cora, again, in a lot of ways, is the best story on this team because he's the one that you have the longest relationship with. So Devers maybe getting there, again, and I don't say this critically, I say it as a matter of fact. Devers has worked a lot on his English, does some interviews in English now. But his, the relative inconsistency of that affects your relationship with him. And when I say your relationship with him, because he's just harder for you to connect to if you can't communicate. So, and I look, Devers is a likable player. I said last night, Devers should be a candidate for the MVP award. You take Rafael Devers off this team, they're cooked. It's over. Forget it. Let alone win the game that you win on Sunday night. But the one that really represents the clubhouse to the fans more than anybody else is Alex Cora. So if I said to you, who do you feel like you know the best that wears a Red Sox uniform? You know what the answer is? Alex Cora. He's the one that tells you how he feels. He's able to communicate to you directly. You know how he feels about certain things, about how they play. You know all that. If this is the reason the Red Sox have kept him here, it's a smart PR move because, again, he is your one real link. Casas isn't there yet. Houck isn't there yet. They've had a rotating door, a revolving door at second base. Trevor Story's not it because he's never on the field. Jarren Duran maybe starting to inch that way, but he's not there yet. Rafaela just got here 5 minutes ago. Tyler O'Neill came in at the beginning of the year. He'll be gone at the end of it. All they are is a bunch of transients and, who could be's or wannabes. That's all they are. But Cora, Cora played here. Cora won a World Series here. Cora communicates daily. So Cora's the one link you have to the team. So if they kept him here for that reason, in some ways, smart business move, because he's really the one link you have. Andrew's in Plymouth. Andrew, go ahead.
Hey, how's it going, Mazz? So we can probably agree that the Red Sox have a certain need that they need more than anything, and that would be starting pitching, correct?
It's one of them. Yeah, I would also say that they could use a right-handed bat. I think there's an important need there too. But go ahead.
But so also being a scorned Red Sox fan, we know they're not going to go all in. So couldn't they do both and possibly move Kenley Jansen because they have Martin, they have Hendricks coming back, and package him, trade him for some prospects, and then trade those prospects plus Nick York for Garrett Crotchet from the White Sox and do something like that?
So look, Andrew, I don't want to get into too many convoluted scenarios. Here's what I would tell you. I would not expect a blockbuster. Okay, I would not expect a blockbuster. I'm not even going to put that on the Red Sox because, frankly, blockbusters are hard. Now, could they make one during the offseason? I think that's more likely. Chris Sale was a blockbuster. It happened during the offseason. Typically, you don't get blockbuster deals during the middle of the year. Sometimes they happen. Nomar Garciaparra was traded at the trade deadline. So it can happen, but unlikely. How about just an extra second base prospect, whether it's Nick York or whether it is Vaughn Grissom? How about one of those guys for a starting pitcher that you can keep? And if you have to throw in some A-ball prospects, that's fine too. You got to give up an arm and A-ball to a team that needs some sort of second baseman that they can control for a period of time. Fine. Go get me a middle of the rotation guy. At this stage, I would take something akin to Nick Pivetta for crying out loud. And I'm not telling you I want Nick Pivetta, but you get the idea. What Nick Pivetta is now, not when he came over from Philadelphia. Nick Pivetta is a legitimate big league starter for the most part who takes his turn every 5 days. And you'll get some good ones and some bad ones, but he's a functional big league pitcher. Can you get that? Can you get Jack Flaherty or Michael Lawrenson? Am I pronouncing that correctly, Jimmy? Is it Lawrenson, who got traded last year to the Phillies? How about, could you get one of those? Something like that? Is that asking too much? And those are relatively marginal, middle-of-the-road deals. I still think they would help this team. And then you can say, okay, we picked up a starter. We're going to get Hendricks back, so that'll further help the bullpen, maybe. We're going to get Casas back, which will help the lineup a little bit. Okay, maybe now you start to inch towards something. And you say, well, they could be better in the second half. They go 5 over in August and 5 over in September. Well, now we're talking. Now you're a 90-win team. Take your chances. We'll wrap it up with your calls when we come back in the Baseball Hour.
Stay tuned for more of the Baseball Hour on the Sports Hub.
Hey, it's Mazz for Bigelow Tea. Like most people, I like flexibility, options, choices. So, what does that have to do with big? English breakfast, chamomile, decaf. And Bayo takes them on tonight against the Oakland A's at Fenway Park. I would tell you, keep an eye on this week. It's an important week. And you would say, important week? Oakland, Kansas City, then the All-Star break. So I think the final week is, at the end of the first half is always an important week because it's a week that you can easily let slip away if you are not careful, particularly when you have a favorable schedule. And the All-Star game's coming up, as everybody knows. But for the players, you know what it is? A break. A break. The game, the way the baseball season is set up, and teams have gotten way better about managing this now, it's designed to wear you down. The season's designed to wear you down. It always has been. You show up every day, you play, you show up the next day, you play again, you keep doing that for 6 months. It gets old. The routine gets tired. It wears you down. You get on planes every 3 days or once a week, whatever, you get the idea. But it's a lot of doing the same thing over and over and over again. And then when you get to the end of any task and you're within, arm's length of completing it, you know what happens? You lose focus. I just want this to end. I want to get out of here. School vacation's coming up. I'm skipping out on Friday. You get the idea. You lose focus. You're less interested. I just want this to end. The Red Sox have two beatable teams in town. The A's, who suck, and the Royals, whom they're going head-to-head with in the wild card race. It is not a good time to lose focus. This team can't afford it. And just before they played the Marlins and the Yankees last week, they started to slip up a little bit, and then they got right back on the beam. So, again, I would tell you that that's a good sign. But the Padres came in here and kicked their ass the last time they were home. The Blue Jays, they split a series with. One of the games was suspended, if you remember that. But the bottom line is they went 2-3 in 5 games at home. It looked like, okay, here's water finding its level again. They went on the road. They started playing well, which is another thing. They've played much better on the road than they have at home. So, end of half, 2 beatable teams, one in particular and one that's more important. You haven't played well at home. Don't slip up. And I would add, Brian Bayo, in theory, will start 2 more games. Tonight and Sunday. I don't know if he's going to pitch Sunday or not. They could bounce him, give him a break at the All-Star break. It's possible. But if anyone's going to pitch twice, it's Bayo. He's also an important guy. The last game against the Marlins was good, but he's been very inconsistent. They're going to need Bayo to get his ass in gear and get his act together.
And tonight should worry you.
So, because it's the A's?
It's the A's, and of the Oakland hitters are 5 for 15 against Bayo. 3 of those 5 hits, home runs.
Yeah, and you know what? That goes back to that game in Oakland last year. That was a day game, Jimmy, if you remember, and he got his brains beat in.
I believe he was late to that game also.
So just something to keep an eye on. Quickly, Danny in a car. Danny, what do you got?
I'm Bloom's coming back. What?
Hey, Anthony, I don't mean to call you out here, but I think we were talking about a manager, Alex Cora. You said it was built for a winner and he was done. And I said to you, why not? Why not let him coach the young guys? And he's here, and I think he's telling all of us, let's go. As Mr. Brady said, let's go. This guy wants to coach Boston.
Yeah, so Danny, I think you're out of your mind. And here's the part of the story you're leaving out. Cora's in a contract year. So, given his druthers, do you think Alex Cora wants to manage young players or manage veteran guys and compete for World Series? I'll tell you, it's the second thing. He's not in player development. He could be. I mean, he's smart enough to be able to do it. He can teach. I'm not telling you he can't teach. I'm just telling you that's not what he wants to do. He was a big league player. He considered himself a big league manager. The big league manager's job is not to develop players. That's a AAA manager's job, not to mention the staff down there or the AA, single A. You get the idea. Cora wants to win. That's what Cora wants to do. And remember, the Red Sox brought him here to do that reason. So they thought he was the same thing. They thought he was a big market, big time championship caliber manager. So they brought him in. You know why they're keeping him here now? Because they need his profile. And when I say profile, I don't mean that in any sort of, ethnic term or racial term. I mean it as he's a high profile guy that connects with the fan base. Okay, they need Alex Cora's connection with the audience. Fans know who he is. That's what they need. because they lacked the players, and they knew they were going to lack the players, so they wanted to have a high-profile manager. He's a high-profile manager. Okay? So I'm not telling you. Listen, what you should be annoyed at is that Cora could have done a better job in some of the other years. I wasn't as annoyed about it as you are or were because I didn't think they were going to win regardless. I don't think this team's going to win the championship either, but they deserve an investment. And I hope I'm wrong. Now, that would be a story. Kevin Majori's got your headlines. We'll catch you tomorrow.
Joe Murray going to be with you 7 to 12. Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I'd rather stick needles in my eyes.